this. All right, so our next topic here is on computing today. And so computing today, I mean, as opposed to computing 10 years ago or 5 years ago, because it does change a lot. So we have new sort of focus. And I would say it's really on sort of things like the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things being that we can put some kind of IP address, some kind of way of identifying something to a computer on the internet, to anything just about. I mean, so we have these very small miniaturized RFIDs that we can attach to clothing in the store, etc. Things around our house, and so that they become part of a computer network, and so they can provide data to us that we can use in many different ways. So that's the Internet of Things. We'll talk a little bit about that, but also I'd say that the other big trend is towards this cloud computing, definitely, and we've already talked a little bit about that, but that's a huge trend. And then there's your big data and data analysis and artificial intelligence. So basically, as computer storage has got so cheap, I mean, it just gets, this is Moore's law, right? Like every year you get twice as much for the same amount of money. And so there's so much potential to store data. And I think you have to consider that basically every time you've touched a computer somewhere, every time you've typed something somewhere, that has been recorded somewhere and stored. And quite likely, unless you've taken effort to go and delete it, and unless you've sort of encrypted it or tried to hide it from people, that's going to be around. And, you know, it'll be around after you die. And so maybe if you have big enough computer systems, you can scrape that data, and, you know, maybe it doesn't make too much sense to somebody just looking at it today, but maybe 50 years from now it might. You can scrape that data with a bunch of other data, and you can come up with some information and something useful. And artificial intelligence, you might say, well, what's that got to do with artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence, what they're trying to do is they're trying to sort of let the computer to be like a person. And so how a person is, if you looked inside our brains, you'd see that every nerve cell has many, many, many connections. So it's not like one nerve cell connected to another nerve cell. It's one nerve cell connected to maybe 20 or 30 nerve cells. And so you get this huge neural network. And if you can do that with computers, if you can have computers that are designed to have many, many connections, and then you have huge amounts of data, you can scan over the data and come up with patterns. You can see patterns that a human wouldn't have been able to see. And so we can get this artificial intelligence. Now with that, you can have vehicles that can drive themselves, other drones that can do their own things. But the other thing is you can predict what people will do. And so companies like in the United States, where they have a big deal about their elections, they'll predict how people are going to vote. They'll predict how people are going to buy things. And then what happens to us is we are the source of their data, right? And so that's why they're letting us use their systems for free, right? Why do you think Facebook's free? Because we're providing them with data about ourselves, and from that they can get data from people like us, who we know, and they can predict things about us and about people like us. Okay, sorry, you had a question.
They say that even if you delete some things that things are never deleted. Is that true? Like you can recover even.
Yeah. Yes. So there's this whole sort of study area. So we talk about computer security. Sort of related to computer security is an area called computer forensics. And the idea there is that you can go to devices that somebody has touched, and you can get information that maybe that person was trying to hide from you. And so this is used by police. So they'll take somebody's phone, and maybe you've deleted a bunch of stuff on there, but there will be something, an artifact of that data there. Now, the way our file systems work on our computers is when you store a file on there, it takes up some space in the memory. When you delete the file, when you go delete, the file is not deleted. All it's deleted is a record directory pointing to that file. So what you do is you delete the pointer. The file's so people with good forensic tools can go onto that and reproduce the pointer and then get your file. Now that's really important for law enforcement, right? So law enforcement, I mean, one of the big things, and I really hate to talk about this because there's just some really nasty things that happen in the world, and we really wish that they didn't happen. And of course we have police to help us to stop that. But one of the things that people do, and I don't even know why they do this, but they like to do very bad things to children. And, you know, people will travel from one country to another and find children who are vulnerable children. Maybe they've lost their parents or whatever. They'll traffic them, and they'll do all of these terrible, terrible things with them. And some of the terrible things that they do is they take pictures of them, you know, and so those pictures will show up on people's computers. Now, if that, there's such strong laws about that, and I'm sure it's here in Qatar, you know, if that's on your computer, you're going to jail, man. I mean, wherever you are, if you've got that on your computer, you're going to jail for a long, long time. And, you know, good riddance. But the thing is, so these people, they're very bad people. And as I say, they go to places where children maybe have lost their parents or don't have much money. They go to Thailand, Philippines, you know, where some people are poor, and just do terrible things to children. And so, yeah, that delete stuff from their phone. And then the police if they suspect that person, they'll grab the phone, they'll get their computer experts on it. If there's anything on there, they'll get it. But he goes to jail for a long time. So that's one of the areas where they're looking at it. But other things, you know, another big thing that law enforcement looks for is people moving money around that they shouldn't have, money that they got from illegal ways and that they're using it in a wrong way. So they try and cover the way that they're moving that money around, and police try and find it. Yeah, so
They call that an offshore account, right?
Offshore account is not necessarily illegal. But yeah, I mean, we have a term for it. We call it money laundering. Yeah, so where you're taking money, which is the money was got by a bad way, illegal source, and then you're putting it into some other way so that people won't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really bad people, and some of them are really rich. And, you know, anyways, so why did we get talking about that? The thing is, can you delete something from your computer and it still be there? Yeah. All right. So if you have a computer and you want to get rid of it, there is a way to do it. You can go through a process, but you'll have to go through several steps to actually get rid of everything on that computer. So you reformat it, and that might not even be enough. All right. And then so basically you'll have to go through and sort of use a little program that goes 1 byte at a time and rewrites it on the disk. And it's a long process. And if the criminal didn't do that, then our police guys, who are going to be university graduates in computing, who studied just how to get this stuff off the computer, they'll take the device and they'll find the stuff that's on there. Sorry, forensics, they call it. And yeah. So what's a computer? You recognize those as computers, right? But do you recognize those as computers? Yes, they are computers. They have computer processors. They have output, input. So this is a tablet, of course. You guys probably use these more than I do. So it doesn't have to be a smartwatch from Apple or Samsung to be a computer. You can buy a 200 real one from, I don't know, XYZ company from China that works as a computer, I suppose. I would say so. So my watch is a Garmin watch. I'm sure you've heard of Garmin. Garmin does GPSs. And so the main reason why I like my watch, can you see from there? I don't know if you can see, but you know, as you get older, it's hard to see small things, especially close up. So this is really big. And I can read it. It says 1036, really big. But you know, the other thing about it is, yeah, it's telling me what my heartbeat is. So yeah, and it tells me how many steps I walked and stuff like that. So at the moment, my heartbeat is 92 beats a second. What? Yeah, because I'm talking. If I was sitting down, it'd be like 50 something, right? There's a lot of other computer things. So here we're getting to this idea of the Internet of Things. We could have a lot of things with computerized in our home. You know, people's fridges. You could have things that connect to your lights so that you could over the internet while you're at home. You could turn on the heater or the air conditioner so the house is cold. So it didn't have to have the air conditioner on all day, wasting all that electricity, but you could turn it on a half hour before you came home, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's some other stuff there. Alarm systems, watering systems for gardens. So all kinds of things, you can automate them, connecting them to internet. Everybody's got some kind of wire internet or you could have like 5G or something. So I mean, you could have a setup where you didn't have to have wires coming into your house, that you can communicate with from your device anywhere around the world, and so you can control your phone, your house. All right, so here we're talking about the watch that's measuring our that's what you're referring to, right? The smart bracelet, which is just measuring how many steps you've taken and that type of thing. The smartwatch does so many things, right? Smartwatch. I mean, if you had a smartwatch and I had a smartwatch, we'd probably use it differently, right? Because we got different interests, and it's.
Stop many electronics, and if it rains, then what are you gonna do?
This is waterproof.
If all of them are not waterproof.
Oh, I don't
They're
know.
waterproof to a certain limit, right?
Yes.
If it rains more, then you're going to be in accident.
Maybe. I don't know. I think we have to. This is the thing, right? So, what is your personal risk? Is that what you're talking about? So there's an area that we could spend a lot of time talking about too, right? What is our personal risk? I mean, and there've been studies done on this, like people in America. That's where they do a lot of studies because there's a lot of people there, right? And people in America, very afraid of sort of terrorists, right? So very afraid. So afraid to fly. You know, everybody's got to be stripped down. That's kind of a big concern. But they have a fear of something which is actually a low level risk. I mean, your chance of being hurt by a terrorist is pretty low, but they'll get in a car and they'll drive down the road at 75 miles an hour like this, right? I mean, that's high risk, and that doesn't bother them. So you know what I mean? And we're all like that a little bit, right? What is our risk? So what's our risk from this? I don't know. I haven't really studied it. I think it's high. But yeah, I mean, the corona is another one, right? I mean, we don't really have some people who think it's more risky than it is. And there's probably some people who think it's less risky than it is. And yeah, I don't know. I hope we get it about right. There's other things: smart glasses, smart rings, smart pants. Wow. I'm not sure how that works. Smart shoes. Yeah. So smart finger as a prosthetic moves synchronously with the other fingers. So that means you got a finger that maybe was broken, or the nerves have been damaged, and so you're going to move it to grow back the nerve. Here's some other computers. Your TV is a computer. I found that out from my daughter, right? She comes into the TV room, into the living room, and then takes over the computer. All of a sudden, there's freaking, all of a sudden, there's YouTube, and there's some game going on our TV, and she's just sitting there with her mobile phone controlling the TV, because it's got a computer in it, and all these other things have got computers in them. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. But what is the one that they've done in Saudi do? Oh, okay.
Impossible. In 3 years' time, it was just 2 or 3 months ago. I saw it. They have implemented it. Built the chip inside his body. Anyways, the answer close to it. I was shocked. I never thought that this would be.
I'll be honest with you, I don't really know the engineering that would go into that. But I could say that the human body has electrical potential. And so, I mean, the human body could be a source of the electrics to run it. And so you're going to have a processor. You're going to have something that recognizes voice, so you can talk to it. Yeah, you could all manage. I mean, it seems plausible. Yeah, I mean, and I know you could use the human body as a source of electrical energy. So yeah, you could probably put something in there and keep it going for a few years. I don't know. Do you want to do that? What happens 3 years later when they bring out the new model? That's the problem, right? Because how do you upgrade? You know what I mean? I'm sure they thought of that too. Sorry? Yeah, maybe. If it's only below the skin, it wouldn't be hard to do that. You could maybe even do it with a needle, push it in. Okay, so they do that with dogs in Australia. They put a chip in them. They call it chipping the dog. Yeah. And then you can know where that dog is or something. It's got a GPS. So yeah, why couldn't you do it with a phone? So you see these very, very large computers. We could call them supercomputers. Now, up until like 20 years ago, the only use for those computers was for big businesses to do their big number crunching. Now they're going to be found in what we'll call server farms for cloud computing for all of us. And so we don't need a big computer, but we're just going to use some time on that computer. And so we can rent it out. So these big companies can rent out the time on the computer for a little bit. Supercomputers, yeah, as I said, used to be just governments would have it. So what is a computer? It's, well, nowadays it's this big electronic device which does these things, right? It does things for speed. That's really the thing where computers excel. I mean, you know, we're looking for computers to take over from people, you know, artificial intelligence, and we're going to have this thing called what is it, the synchronization, or whenever, when the computers become aware of themselves, self-aware. I mean, you know, that was the thing around which the movies of the Terminator were, right? The computers became self-aware. Of course, if computers became self-aware, they'd soon realize, well, these people are here, they're really messing the place up, you know. I mean, they cause all this pollution, and they're shooting each other all the time, and they're just really making a mess, you know. Probably the best thing for us computers to do would be just get rid of the people, right? And so that's the plot behind the Terminator movie. It's not. I think we're a little way away from that. But yeah. Oh yeah, the computer speed. What the real use of computers is, they can just do simple things really, really fast. Like they can you know, they can find all the people in Qatar that have had their COVID injection. Just like that, you know. It would take you hundreds of people to do that, but you know, you got all this stuff in a database, and you could just touch a button and you could see, well, we know exactly how many people have had a COVID injection, and we know exactly where they live. That would be hard to do for people, but for computers, yeah, that's the kind of thing that they're really, really good at. And you know, other things related to that, if you have a government that is collecting taxes, you know, you can find out exactly how much everybody owes, you know, and who's paid and who hasn't. That kind of stuff is very easy for computers to do. If you're a bank, yeah, banks is just all computers, right? All that's happening in banks nowadays is a bunch of numbers in a computer. That's in a computer. How much money do you have in the bank? Well, it's in a computer somewhere, right? So they're really, really good at that. Now, with these graphs, there's a couple of these graphs coming up in the next couple of slides, but with these graphs, this is a logarithmic scale. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the logarithmic scale, but the idea of a logarithmic scale is going across, we're going across in units, but as we go up, every one of these is like times 10 of the one below it. So that's a logarithmic scale. So if we were to draw this on a 1-to-1 scale, these graphs would be going up like this. It's a logarithmic scale. So we had to use a logarithmic scale to get anything like a straight line out of it, because these things are going up so fast. All right, but so what do we got here? Number of transistors. And so as you can see, that's a line that's going up. But it actually, if you translated it to a line that wasn't logarithmic, it would be going up pretty fast. So yeah, we see that the number of So what do we got here? Can somebody tell me that number? That looks like 20 billion, right? There's 9 zeros after the 20 billion transistors on a chip in 2016. And in 1970, there was a little less than 1,000. So yeah, it kind of went up kind of fast. And likewise, supercomputer performance. So gigaflops is floating point operations. That's operations per second. And again, that's on a logarithmic scale. So each one of these is 10 times more than the one below it. And still it's going up. And so that's obviously going up pretty fast. And yeah, so I mentioned about artificial intelligence. We haven't got to the point of the Terminator where the computer is self-aware, but in a very sort of limited operation where the computer is focused on doing one thing, like playing chess, yeah, we can get it to be pretty good. So we can get a computer that will beat the world champion at chess. We can get a computer that can beat you at a game. So Jeopardy is a game of knowledge. That would be easy for a computer, right? You just fill it full of facts, right? Other things, right? I don't know what this game is. AlphaGo, yeah, another game. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's why they look like Japanese guys. So yeah. Anyways, it was able to beat the person at that. Will artificial computing be smarter than humans? I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because you got a couple of problems there. One, you got an engineering problem, which the way we see things, it looks like the engineering problems will be solved eventually. But then you also have an ethical problem, because I mean, you know, if it looks like we're going to go to Terminator world, probably some people will say, well, that's not really a good idea. We'll pull a plug on that. Yes. Yes, for the artificial intelligence. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I mean, I can see that in 10 years' time, we could have computers that are writing programs.
So what's the point of us?
Sorry?
What's the point of us if they're writing?
Yeah, it is. I don't know, man. I don't know what's the point for us. Well, there must be something that we're better at than computers. Yeah, at the moment, we're better than computers at a lot of things. So, I mean, Uber and Google tried to introduce self-driving cars. They tried, I use the word tried, and they thought they had that engineering problem solved. But then in 2016, an Uber self-driving car drove over and killed a pedestrian that was jaywalking. Well, jaywalking means that the person was crossing the street, but not in the right place. So it didn't go across the crosswalk. They just walked out into the traffic. And now a human driver may or may not have hit them, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the automated car hit and killed a pedestrian. And so that's not acceptable. And so therefore, you're not going to see Uber automated cars until they solve that problem. It's got to be that it never drives over a pedestrian. You know what I mean? I think that they would never bring them in otherwise. Sorry? I don't know. You can read up on the case. There was a case of it. And there was another one recently, and well, not as recently, 2018, two men in somewhere in the US, I can't remember, but they had a Tesla car, and it was a father and son, and they said, we're going to go and test out the autopilot. And so the father sat in the passenger seat at the front, and the son sat in the back, and the car crashed and they both died, you know. So the autopilot obviously didn't work. You know what I mean? So yeah, and like airlines, right? Airlines have autopilot on their airplanes, but they won't land the plane unless there's a pilot there. You know, the pilot, because they don't trust it yet. All right, so it hasn't got to the point where that people are gonna. I mean, they're talking about having semi trucks in the United States go auto, right? But no way, man. 80,000 pounds down the road with that without human eyes. So what I mean is, I guess what I'm trying to say is the scientists haven't really understood the human eye as much as they thought they did. They thought, oh yeah, the eye is just like this. You know, we can just put a camera out there. It's just like an eye. No, it's not. You know, I mean, now our eye is attached to the biggest part of our brain. There's a lot going on, right? When we see things, it's not just an image coming through, you got to get all that stuff that's happening in your brain working. You know, how do I know that that is a person pushing a push bike across the street so I don't drive over it? We know, but the computer didn't. You see what I'm saying? You have to sort of get that information into it. Sorry, you were going to say something? All right. So any questions on that? Because I think we're just about done. Computers, yeah. I think that we go to something a bit more standard in the next thing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. I did. And yeah, I guess we're